All right, welcome, folks. Mil Spec Ops Monkey here. It is 11 a.m. on September 14th, 2022, and the year is flying right along. So, without further ado, let's hop on over here to our board. We're going to kick it off in Skyglass this morning. And just to show you the main thing I want to take away from this, currently showing 537 mil aircraft up. That is a pretty staggering number. Europe is still very active and very busy right now. But just notice the amount of activity that is ramping up over here in the Middle East and in Iraq. So it looks like we are staging ourselves for another a hot mess in the Middle East. It's the way, just looks like it's shaping up that way just from tracking the flights and the tempo, etc. So we'll continue to keep our eye on this. Let's get over here to our watch list real fast. We'll kind of go through, break it down by the components that kind of carry this whole thing. Okay, so let's do that first. Right here in the watch list, as you can see, got our Guardians up right now, showing 3 of them, even though there are 13 over the United States, but I'm only tracking 3. And then we've got R-135 and then a couple of Mil Intel Army aircraft there flying right along the border. Those are going to be those Peacock BE-20s, right? And that's Homeland Security down in Florida, right just outside of where Trump is. They've been hanging out down there for quite some time. There's another Weatherbird. We're going to look closer at those here in just a minute. And a couple P-8s up on the East Coast. And then, of course, we've got Air Force 2 on the move, which I thought was interesting. We'll watch and see where it goes to see if it I don't know where she's up to today, but nonetheless, get over to Europe. You can see very light from our watch list perspective, but it's not that way for the heavies and refuelers. We'll look closer at that. Notice that tight circle again. They're doing some man in the middle over Germany. It could just be the fact they're trying to make sure they don't have any escapes or any enemies nearby in that general area. So they do a data collection there over Ramstein and in the general area. So, okay, let's break into the heavy lifts. One thing I did want to point out. Notice you got that little drone right here off of Tripoli. They are doing some recon on that area because it is starting to go hot again due to political implications, I guess you could say. So, all right, now we got some stuff off to the west side of Africa. A lot of activity again. These are going to be your heavy lifts. So looks like they're bringing stuff into the green zone over in Iraq, right there near Baghdad. And then, of course, we've got stuff going on around Israel as well. And Europe's been pretty busy. It's kind of keeping that rhythm and tempo in terms of arrivals and departures. So we'll look at that closer when we get into the troop movements, etc. But notice the U.S., again, big, heavy uptick tempo on the East Coast. I don't know if they're staging things out of there or bringing stuff in or a little bit of both, but continue to watch. That has been, again, a very busy, active day. These are the traces, by the way, are the last 24 hours, okay? All right, now let's get over here to, let me actually bump in. We looked at the heavies. Look at the refuelers. Now, this one's going to get your attention because there are a ton of refuelers up. I was looking at 29 KC-135s currently up. Now, keep in mind, if they're flying as logistics birds, they're going to show as a reach call sign and not the KC-135. So notice we got some stuff going on right there over the Carolinas and then up the coast. That is a very good indication of air refuelers in the region. Sorry, not air refuelers, fighters in the region. Yeah, because those are air refuelers. They would be a good indicator too, right? All right, there we go over to the Europe side of the house. You can see running some little routes there. Again, doing some air refueling. Remember too, we've got F-22s in Poland. So more than likely those guys are up just flying around and doing some refueling while they're up. And then right down there near Constanta, we seem to be hanging out. Of course, Persian Gulf and Iraq. Again, that means we're probably got combat air patrol up over that general region, all right? Okay, now let's break over to our board and get into the nitty-gritty of things. We're going to start out, first off, this Brio 68 is residing right down here in Constanta. If you remember this aircraft, it's actually one, looks a lot like a Gulfstream aircraft platform. It's actually a Cessna Citation. It's a very nice high-end aircraft. However, it is loaded chock full of intelligence gathering equipment. The electronic suite on this thing is staggering. It's really, really good. It's what you've been seeing. Notice the flight path, how they run right along that Moldova area. That's because they've got eyes on Russian buildup in this general area. Okay, and so when they're running these different routes, they're getting side views. They're basically mapping out all the battlefield in this general area. All right. Now, other piece too. Keep in mind we've got troops right here in Bucharest, which is really close to the front line if it goes hot, and we've got a boatload of troops in Sofia, and that's both U.S. as well as NATO. Okay. All right. Now we'll break away from our aircraft stuff for a minute. We'll get into some of the things that are going on. This is probably, it's not the highest we've seen from a volcanic ash alert, but this is high. I mean, this is really high. I'm counting 11. Now there could be a twofer down here that I'm not seeing. Don't, that's good. But just notice we've got them down here in Southeast Asia. You got them over here in Japan. And then we've got one going on right here in the Soviet Union. And then of course you get down into Mexico. They have one. And then all the ones running from almost Central America all the way down into Chile and Argentina. But very, very active volcanic ash alert wise. Again, the highest we've seen, there are 11 shown on this board. The highest we've seen is 14. But that is, from an ash perspective, that's pretty high. Okay. All right, let's go over here and see what the NOAA boys are up to. This is going to be weather modification, monitoring, whatever they do. But it's NOAA, right? They do Hurricane Hunter stuff as well as weather mod stuff. But just to give you a general idea, here's a en route currently rolling out of Norwood, Massachusetts, headed down to Newport News. It was up in this area, so it's headed southbound. We got another one right here. Just note the proximity. It landed 5 minutes ago, Lakeland, Florida. But note the proximity to the weather right here. That's just a data point for you, but more than likely, it looks like they're doing some touch and goes just based on this right here. Okay, up and down. So that's a pretty good cycle of touch and goes. When you see the yellow line going at speed, so that'd be slowing down and then throttling up to take off. But it looks like they're doing touch and goes in the general area, but notice it's kind of got a little moist weather there too. So again, we just keep our eye on them, try and keep them honest, right? Okay, now we look at, this is the NASA stuff. So this is actually some of the NOAA birds as well as others that kind of blend in. This one is doing some activity that's right off the coastline of Africa. This is where all your hurricanes form. They come right off of that that coast of Africa there near Guinea and Senegal, and then they just get hotter than a junkie spoon when it runs right out here into this general area. But looks like they are running some routes. It's a DC-8. I don't really know. I'll have to look closer at the tail number to see if they've got any deviation in altitude tied to this as well. But more than likely, they're looking at some weather coming off right now, probably the next big storm. I'm actually amazed nothing's hit the U.S. yet. I'm going to admit that. I'm really amazed that it all seems to be coming off the shoreline. But of course, if you're running through the highest drought you've ever had and your crops are dwindling, the last thing you want is water, right? So maybe that's what they're doing, keeping it away. Who knows? But here's another one too, Dynamic Aviation down here in Southern California, San Bernardino here. We'll keep our eye on that one because these guys have been caught in a couple other areas where they were actually doing some weather mod stuff, all right? All right, over here to Flashbang and his calendar for today. Looks like he's headed to Motor City, heading up to Detroit, and then back to the White House, or the Senior Living Center, as we call it. Looks like 10:30 a.m. He arrives in Detroit, so he should be already airborne and landed, and he heads to the Detroit Auto Show. So I'm sure he'll have ice cream in hand. So, all right, let's hop over here. This one I thought was pretty funny. Ignore the language up here. Not very professional, but nonetheless, Tyler's over target as always. But this is going to be Zero Hedge, just talking about how we are in an ocean of red. I'm just going to scroll through these because I find them very comical. Some of these are very good little memes where he's done this. But look, this is all your stock stuff behind him, all in the red, looking at like it's in a toilet. And then look, here's the food inflation record highs. And then you get down, I don't know what the football one is. I'll skip through that. But I thought this was funny. America, take 50% off your entire net worth, right? So 47% odds. September rate hike expectations. Holy smokes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is not good. Definitely not good. So, All right, we'll get away from that. But nonetheless, this dude is just his whole he's in a tank. I mean, let's just be honest. It's one giant dumpster fire. So, okay, this I want to point something out because we're going to talk about some of the China things. These are the flights that are all rolling in and out of Asia, out of China. The reason they're putting them on flights is because there are not any boats or very limited boats coming out or ships from a cargo perspective. We are actually having to fly stuff in and out, which is going to drive the price through the roof. Okay. So this right here is not what you want to see. You really do want them slow boat from China if you're going to do it. But China shut us off. I'm telling you, we've been watching the traffic. We've been watching the ports. And I'm saying now we are probably 5 or 6 months into a China shutdown. And again, like I said, August, I predicted we'd start to see a lot of shortages hitting the shelves from commodities that we get from China because we're burning down the inventory levels we have here. An early indication of that is the Amazon scaling back, reducing their footprint, getting away from a lot of like 10 million square foot of warehouse space, 100,000 employee layoff. I mean, that's a good indicator of what's happening. Okay. Now, this I find interesting. China says it's ready to create the new world order with Russia. Who knew, right? Who knew? I don't think these guys, or Flashbang for that matter, are involved with the new world order to the degree that they think they may be. Okay. These guys are just puppets, just like everybody else. All right. Now, let's get over here to Forward Observer. As always, this is the spot I go. These guys are amazing, and I am basically, I'll give you a little more backfill when we get into Friday's SITREP as to how much I actually use these guys. But we're going to go into a couple things I want to point out that are key takeaways from this write-up. Now, first off, Forward Observer's got a beautiful write-up here about the White House, talking about the Biden administration is actually in talks to do preemptive sanctions on China. That is not good. And the reason it's not good is because if you already know that our supply chain is already crumbling from China, the last thing you want to do is induce sanctions because now you're going to just further impede that supply chain, right? If we haven't learned from what we did to Russia, it backfires on us very rapidly. Us doing that is going to drive inflation probably through the roof because now all of a sudden the stuff we do get, China's going to charge you whatever that price is for the sanction that costs them right into the product itself. So that is where it's going to go. Economics 101 and our administration, they get it. Don't think for a minute they don't. This is all intentional, folks. All right. Okay, we get away from Forward Observer, but that's your big key takeaway is they're trying to sanction China. This is not good. All right, over here to Ukraine, a little bit of what's going on here now. We've seen, you notice the blue dots are coming in. These are the Ukrainian effort as they try to push back on the Russian side. Now, they have actually made a little progress in certain areas, but I will tell you, all they're going to do is basically make Russia go after them more hot and heavy than they have in the past. So we'll continue to watch it, but I have a feeling this is about to go really, really bad in the coming weeks. Okay. Let's see the other piece too, before we get too deep into this aspect of it, I do want to touch base because this is why these B-52s are here. This is just a data point for you, but I had a lot of folks sending me messages yesterday about a B-52 that squawked, and the rumors were flying. Somebody said, oh, it was a hijacking squawk, that it had nukes on board. A lot of different information was coming out of this. Let me just back you up a little bit. Somebody that came off of B-52s, I will tell you, first off, if it took off, the squawk that it gave for the emergency squawk was 7,700, which is a general squawk. It's not hijacking. It's not anything. It could be anything from a hydraulic steel to a pop circuit breaker to smoke in the cockpit. It could be anything. Okay. It's just a general squawk. The reason they fly around is because they have to burn fuel. If they just took off and they squawked because they had an in-flight emergency, they can't re-land that quickly because these aircraft are carrying a ton of fuel. It's too heavy to land. So what they do is they'll get into that marshalling pattern and they'll start flying around, flaps down, gears down, spoilers up, burning as much fuel as they can so that they can get to a weight ratio that'll allow them to land without snapping the airframe, okay? Or just completely hosing your landing gear up. So that's what you're seeing here. Now, somebody mentioned yesterday we were talking about nukes on board Now, my understanding back from the days when I was actually on B-52s on the alert pad, a B-52 is not allowed to break ground with nukes on it because it is considered an act of war, right? And so I always knew that if they rolled out from the alert pad, all they'd do is a high-speed taxi. They'd come right back to the alert pad because if they took off with the nukes on there, it would be considered an act of war. Now, does that still apply today? I don't really know. It's been a hot minute since I was in, but it's just a data point for you, okay? I don't think they're allowed to fly with nukes. That's just plain and simple because of the implications if you were to crash or whatever it may be. But I'm pretty confident that that is not the case today, okay? All right, so let's get in. We're going to talk about this Armenian clash aspect of it as we break away from the B-52, but the B-52s are there for a command presence. That's why they're in the region. And there's a bunch of them in the UK, and they're flying around every day over to Europe. But nonetheless, here's a new one for you. This is from 7 Israel National News. Fresh clashes erupt between Armenia and their border cousin here as we get into that. I'll show you what's going on. This one's pretty impressive, really, when you start to look at this. Now, this is some video that was shot over the general area, but you're going to notice you got one that is just blasting into the air, but notice the ones coming from the air that look to be falling into that general area. You can see them going the opposite direction in terms of the flashes. So it looks like they were trying to shoot something down, but that whole area has gone pretty hot. My understanding is that Putin is going to be bouncing in. If you're not familiar with that area, let's get down just a little bit. This is Armenia, and this is the border right here where they're doing the clashes. And yeah, I am deliberately not trying to pronounce this word if you haven't figured that out yet. So, all right. Nonetheless, this is where the clashes are happening. This is Turkey off to the left, Crimea and Ukraine up here, and this is all Russia up in here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here in terms of engagement with the Ruskies. Okay. All right, let's break away from that. Let's get over here to the Bit Defender. As you can see, we are continuing. This is going into probably day 10 of a very high level of attacks coming into the United States. Looks to be centrally located, as well as up here. I don't know where that one is. It looks to be in maybe Michigan or, yeah, probably Michigan if I had to guess. Maybe Chicago. Looks like 2 of the bigger hubs for God knows what are getting peppered pretty heavily, all right? Okay, into the NOTAMs. Note the box change color here. I don't know what significance that is, but that is typically been red, and it's no longer that way. Notice the gap right here. This is where you see where my mouse is moving. That's the location you see us running that Brio 68 aircraft right along that border as they are trying to gather what is actually there from an asset perspective and probably from the Russian perspective, okay? Notice, too, we've got... looks like we've got some new events going on with NATO, some more exercises happening. This is all north of England, but you've got some boxes, new ones in Norway, and some new boxes here in Finland. And then you get up here into the Russia side, and it looks like they are also doing some practicing right very close to each other, okay? Here's the other piece, too. We've got some Russian boxes up here in the Arctic Sea. Then if we get down just a little further south, this is the area we want to keep a close eye on. Notice this is going to be your, yeah, this is where all your clashes and stuff are taking shape, right? Actually just south of that. So looks like we got a lot of Russian activity right here, just to the east of Sochi. All right. And again, Turkey's got a lot of stuff going on right there on the border of Syria, as well as over here with Greece. So Turkey's kind of spread thin with their troops because they look to be going back and forth between the two. And we'll continue to watch that and see what happens. But that is going to be your primary mix. Now we get over to the United States from a NOTAM perspective. And you can see it is a little busier than it has been in the past. We do have some extended boxes out here in the general area. We've got some NOTAMs. We'll look at, not NOTAMs, but TFRs. We'll look closer at those here in just a minute. A lot of stuff going on down here in Mexico as well. But note the activity right up on the Canadian border, and it's on both sides, okay? All right. Let's look at TFRs real fast over here from the weather map. It's easier to just break it loose from this standpoint. Now, this is going to be Flashbang. He's there right now. I'm very intrigued the fact that there are smaller boxes here. I don't know if Bob Marley is with him or not, but typically the smaller boxes are Bob Marley, the bigger and circles. I'm sorry, not boxes, but this is the big one is what we typically see associated with flashbang, and that is because he is old and fragile and doesn't really know where he is half the time, and so this allows them to get a little more of an area squared away, so they have more time to push him in the right direction. So, okay. All right, we do have some other little boxes. You can see power outages and things like that. That's what these are right here. Lots of fires going on. If we get into the tropics, again, these are the hot areas coming off of Mexico. That looks like that's going to be cranking. Now, remember all these earthquakes we're seeing. Keep in mind, we just looked at that ring of fire with the volcano activity, and they are kind of in the same general areas, relative to volcanic activity. So we'll watch that. This one is going to be our next big one. It looks right now to just be a tropical storm and then a depression as it gets over Haiti. Looks like it's weakening, not strengthening, at least the forecast-wise. But that red box right there is the watch zone. Note the timing. And the reason I think this is they're predicting this is going to go and not into the hurricane form, but actually just kind of fizzle out, is because you got a low pressure pushing down right here. That long line that's coming across is going to basically either do one of two things. It's going to push that thing south, which is my projection, is it's going to push it south into the Gulf of Mexico, and then probably it'll just deteriorate and carry it up the coast, or it'll make a very hard right and head up the East Coast. I guess it'll depend on, what happens with this low. So, all right, we'll get away from the weather side of it as we talked a little bit about that. And let's get over to our next headline. This is the NATO. We were just talking about this, kicking off naval war games near a group of Russian ships. That is always an opportunity for somebody to screw up. So we'll just watch it and see what happens. But it looks like we've got a lot, 50 surface ships, 5 submarines, 5 patrol planes, helicopters from the U.S., Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Poland, Romania, Spain, and Turkey. Going to be really interesting to see Turkey and Greece all playing in the same game, given the fact that they do not like each other. So beautiful little picture there at port. That's exactly what you don't want to see. But seeing the fact that they are still sitting in port is a pretty good indicator that we aren't about to go to war, because they will not want these sitting. You'll have another Pearl Harbor on your hands. All right, on to the next news bit. 2 Russian aircraft enter North American air defense zone the day before NORAD drills. So I just find this one interesting. They do this all the time. It's not unusual. They will go basically, fly as close as they can or into that airspace just to see what our reaction time is, etc. And we do it on both sides on a regular basis. You just don't ever hear about the U.S. doing it, but we do it all the time. Okay. All right. Jerusalem Post. Energy executive falls from boat in latest mysterious Russian death. You can't make this stuff up. This is absolutely crazy. You got guys getting a leg up out the window of a hotel. Now you got a guy falling off his boat, Man, it's absolutely amazing. That's what communism will do to you, though. The only difference between communism and our American administration right now is that these guys they seem to be taking folks out that are a threat. We don't seem to be doing that right now. Of course, you go back a little bit to the Clinton administration, and you had a lot of people that were suicided conveniently, right? And so just goes to show you that these politicians around the world are a bunch of dirtbags, no matter how you slice it, okay? All right, now here's another one for you. We talk a little bit about some of the AI that has been going on, this modern warfare that we see taking shape. The Chinese put those robot dogs into the war theater up near Nepal and their border stuff. That's a very big change. From ground, having had troops on, boots on the ground, to putting in these robotic dogs and tanks or whatever it is they're putting into play, changes the battlefield quite a bit. And that's because you can return fire on these things, but you're not going to kill them, right? You have to try and take them out with a landmine or, javelin or something. But you're not going to be able to return fire and survive. I mean, these things probably have some type of thermal imaging on them so they can see you when you're hiding. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But here's one for you, though. This Iranian kamikaze drone. It looks like Russia is now using them. This is a picture of the one of the little winglets, it looks like, coming off of it. So again, it's just changing the face of war, right? This is kind of the new front, and we'll see more and more of that because of the drones and everything else that are coming into play. So, all right, here's one for you. Defense Minister Gantz reveals a map showing 10 Iranian missile facilities in Syria. This is very, very bad. This is a game changer. Not what you want to see. They actually break out this into a bit of a slide. I'll blow it up a little bit. You can see it better. Notice the name on this one at the bottom, Damascus, right? We're watching for that. That's Isaiah 17, when Damascus basically disappears overnight. Now, I know there are certain pastors out there that believe that event has already taken place. I don't believe that is the case. But that's just where we separate in our belief, okay? I'm not saying he's wrong, not saying I'm wrong, just saying until it happens, I don't know. I don't think it's happened yet. But nonetheless, we want to watch this, keep your eye on it, because Israel will not play around. They will absolutely take these targets out, okay? And so we'll probably be watching for that to happen. Here's another one for you. There are other clashes happening around the world, wars and rumors of wars, right? Here are 10 dead and a second day of air raids in Ethiopia. And so it looks like this spot is just another one of many around the world that are basically heating up on a war footing, okay? All right, let's get into troop movements. We have nothing coming out of Biggs Army Airfield, so I'm going to start us off today over in Ramstein. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything as we get into, yep, we've looked at this. Okay, I'm just making sure my scenes are not being bypassed, that I didn't mess that up. So, okay. Now, this is going to be, you can see the aircraft actually in the region. That is, these aren't related to Ramstein. This is, it's just air traffic in the general region. But just to show you what's coming inbound, Baltimore, Washington, you got an Atlas Air, another Atlas Air. Those are two large aircraft coming in. And then you've got one coming in from Dover. That is a 747-400. That's probably a Coletta Air, if I had to guess. It's showing as a camber flight, which means those are troops coming in. And then we've got the camber flight rolling out. We'll look closer at where these are going. Let's see, 2 camber flights on the board. And then, of course, we've got a charter, which is an Atlas Air charter, and then some Reach aircraft coming in from England. Again, we're just resupplying, adding stuff. That's kind of the central hub in Europe, is in Ramstein, right? Everything gets processed and pushed through that general area, just kind of like Biggs is in the United States, or like Anderson Air Force Base out in Guam. All right, this is gonna be your camber flights. Got a little weather in the region, but for the most part, looks like we've got 3 of them flying. One rolling out of Ramstein, one rolling out of Sofia, one coming out of Shannon, Ireland. All right, and we back it up. You can kind of see them on the screen a little bit better as it's getting dark over there. So again, we'll continue to watch. This one's over Turkey, coming out of Sofia. Let's see where it goes. It may be coming into that air base in Iraq. Maybe. We'll see. See what happens. All right. Omni Air, we only got one right now showing. It's actually rolled out of Fort Hood, headed to Baltimore, Washington. So it looks like we've got some troops probably going to come into this area and then dispatch across the drink into Europe. All right, but that's going to be your soldiers out of Fort Hood. That's Army guys. And then these are the Ruskies. Notice we got 2 of them back to back coming out of Moscow and headed kind of a southeast trajectory here. I don't know where they're going to go. We'll continue to watch them, but those are going to be dignitaries. And again, when you've got this whole region heating up, these guys are always on the move. So we'll just continue to watch them and see what they do. Okay. This is one of them right here. It looks like, yeah, that's what we just showed. So move on over to the next one. All right, it's going to be your Brits. Again, look like this one's coming into, no, actually it's climbing out. Oh, coming out. It looks like it's taking off out of Cyprus and headed right now southbound, but it could turn and head back to England. And then this one looks to be coming out of, I can't even pronounce that. I'm not even going to try. So, but one of them looks to be headed back home. It's at 40,000 feet, 503 miles an hour, headed probably back to the UK. And this one, yeah, it looks like both of them came out of Cyprus. All right. So I would imagine this is probably going to follow the same track as this guy here. All right. Let's get excited. These are the deportations. These are folks that are getting kicked out of the United States based on the intel that we gathered from somebody that actually had eyes on, I just call them J squared, right? Down at Harlingen and Valley. We just continue to watch the stuff coming from Phoenix. Notice where that one's headed. Remember, one of the flights that he caught that came into Harlingen into Valley, actually, he was able to see them getting off the plane that were cuffed, had both ankle shackles on as well as hand shackles coming out of Phoenix. So that means the governor in Phoenix is basically marching these people out. He's either putting them on buses and sending them into sanctuary cities, or he's bouncing them out to prison or deporting them. And that's the same thing, Abbott here in Texas. So it's a good deal that this is happening. I can understand why they aren't broadcasting this, why they haven't responded to me, probably because they don't want this getting too far out of hand with everybody seeing it, because it would probably change what the administration is doing. They're probably getting away with it at the moment through some type of little loophole funding wise. So nonetheless, a lot of them headed southbound, folks, which is good stuff. This one coming out of Phoenix heading to Alexandria. That is a 72-hour holding facility. It's a third-party prison, basically, that's owned and operated by a third party. So Alexandria, though, is a holding before they typically deport them. All right. But notice all the ones out of Valley, three Valley flights headed southbound down into Central America. So it's good news. We'll take it all the way. All right. Now we've got, this is going to be C-101. Remember, we were tracking C-202. C-202 is the other aircraft that looks identical to this one. It is in heavy maintenance in Greenville, South Carolina from the last I checked. It hasn't flown since, but there looks to be going through a heavy maintenance cycle. So it'll probably come back online. It's been gone for 2 months. And so they're probably doing some modifications and probably updating some things in there too. So that's why it's taken so long. But nonetheless, C-101 is now engaged. And this one is showing, this is kind of a weird deal. All right. And I don't know why it does this. C-101 shows us a helicopter when it's flying out of California. But if I go back to the flight before that, there is another C-1 that is not a helicopter, and it is actually showing this aircraft, which is the proper aircraft right here. It's flown and operated by the U.S. Coast Guard. But nonetheless, this is where it was. It landed 2 hours, 9 minutes ago. It went from the Senior Living Center, Brown Zone, up to LaGuardia. All right. Again, that is your Secretary of Homeland Security, and so that's why we watch them. Just eyes on them. Nothing new out of the DOJ Gestapo bird. That one hasn't been seen in about 4 or 5 days. So, okay, listen, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I will be we'll see you guys over in the Q&A. And then, of course, we've got the Friday Live that'll be popping out. So we'll get that posted and sent out to the masses. But for those folks in the chat, I'll see you over in the Q&A. That's going to be it. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeyworxus.com.